Let's dive right in. Today I'm going to be doing a breakdown of the animation I posted on Twitter last week of these bouncing perovskites. So you can see they all come down, they're kind of fun colors, and they bounce around in a pleasant way. So there was a great deal of commentary to the effect of, oh, soft perovskites confirmed, very entertaining stuff. Thank you, Andrew Prop, for that comment specifically. Yes, I will acknowledge that these are not strictly perovskites. They are missing the A-site cation. These are technically more like rhodium trioxide, as someone accurately pointed out. Don't worry, I've got you covered. So we do have actual bouncy perovskites as well. And you can see this is quite a fun structure. There are ways to constrain this a little more. And as you can see, this is sort of the how it started and then the follow-up post. Let's see if we can grab that quickly. The how it's going, which is, that seems like a pretty accurate summation. So anyway, I'm going to break down quickly how I made this animation, and then I'm going to get into the details of how you could do this kind of from scratch. So we're not going to go fully through setting up the whole thing. That took quite a while, but I want to break down some of the simple elements. So let's go ahead, make this full screen, and I'll throw on the screencast keys for good measure, so anyone can follow along. Now, obviously this is just a camera view. You can see right away that I have this empty in here. I like to divide my scenes up by collections, and I do generally like to label things. So I've added a focus point in the form of an empty for the camera. If I just press play on the timeline, you can see everything bounces down nicely, and they're all coming into effect. Now, I've indicated before how to actually make these basic structures, so the perovskites. I have a separate tutorial for that, and I'll link it for anyone interested. Really, the distinction that's being drawn here is that I've added soft body physics and then just adjusted some of the toggles. Now, the main things that are actually driving the individual animations are differences in gravity, and I've added a wind force that only some of these perovskites are affected by. Other than that, I've just sort of tweaked the individual physics for each one. So if I grab any single one, come down to the physics panel here, you can see I simply added soft body physics. I'm changing these pull and push values throughout. And then the other thing that I've done is I've changed the gravity for each one. So higher gravity, some of them will fall further, they will or won't bounce. You can see this front one is not impacted by the wind at all. Whereas this one of these is impacted by the wind. This one has a slight negative impact from the wind force, so it's being pushed away from the force. And obviously they're all just sort of haphazardly labeled. In terms of materials, there's nothing too special about most of them. They have fun colors that are just a combination of a transmission and a moderate degree of roughness. So obviously we come in a rendered view in cycles, and you get this pleasant looking little collection of things on a simple white background. So the one in the front where this focus point is, this is the center of the focus, and the rest blur out as you go further away. That's basically just setting up the camera with a very unrealistically low f-stop just to get the effect I want, and then focusing on that empty, as I mentioned before. But all that said, how do you actually make this, and how would we do it if we wanted it to be sort of the proper full perovskite? And that's what we're going to look at in a new scene in Blender. So as I mentioned, I like to generally kind of label everything, so I'm just going to hit F2 right away and label this perovskite. I'm also going to re-enable the screencast keys so everyone can follow along. And making the perovskite is actually pretty simple. So I have a separate tutorial on this, as I mentioned, but very simply, I'm going to tab into edit mode, bevel that out with Control B, hit 1, or hit C rather, to clamp that, and then drag all the way until these lock. I'll hit M and choose merge by distance. Now, one other sneaky little thing about this perovskite is people said, it's not the right structure, it's missing some of the atoms. What they didn't realize is it's actually missing the inside atom, or the actual center. So in my case, this would be lead, just because those are the perovskites I worked with, but it's actually missing the center atom. You just can't see it, so nobody knows that. And, that's pretty common in a lot of these things. That being said, this is actually the base of our perovskite. So we've got our core octahedra set up in object mode. I'm going to simply add in a cube, and this is actually going to be our other set of atoms. So I'm going to start by adding some vertex groups now. These are going to be my cubic atoms, so I'll simply say assign, and I'll relabel this cubic. Then I'll hit Control I, and I'll create a new vertex group, and I'll label this octahedral, and I'll assign those as well. From here, we're going to add a few modifiers. So we'll start with an array. I'm going to enable merge, Shift D to duplicate this, change from 1 in the X to 1 in the Y. And once again, we're going to merge, making sure we have merge enabled. Once again, we'll duplicate this, and we'll change to the Z direction. And that is essentially the basis of our perovskite. Now, if I come into wireframe view, you can see what's going on here, and I actually do want to apply all of these. So I have a modifier or a add-on enabled called modifier tools that lets me apply all. Then I'm going to right click, origin to geometry. You can see that's moved the little yellow dot here. I'll hit Alt G to reset that. And then very simply through any orthographic view, in this case the front, I'm just going to hit G, Z, and sort of hold Control and snap that up until it's just about here. This is going to be the base of my perovskite. And I'm actually going to pull a few little tricks here to get the atoms in the places that I need them to be. So for starters, I'm going to Alt-A, deselect everything in edit mode, select face, any of these cubic faces, Shift-G, and then choose Similar by Area, making sure that I've only selected these cubic faces, which I can see I have. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to actually delete all those faces. And one thing that I want to make sure of is that I don't actually have these verts selected, because it looks like I might. But we'll find out in just a moment. So I'm actually just going to hit X, and then I'll go ahead and say dissolve, or rather delete only faces. What that has done is it has preserved all of the points. So I can use these for a particle system, and this is how I'm going to get my A-site atoms. So, very, very simply, let's come down to the particle properties, and we're going to add in 2 hair particle systems. The first one I'm going to use for the octahedral, so I'll come to my vertex group and I'll select all of those. I have 36 points there, so that's a number of 36. We're going to go with a source of verts. We'll use the modifier stack, uncheck the random order. I will have to create 2 different spheres so that I can actually create something there, so we'll do that right now. Adding in 2 spheres. First, we'll move this one over here, shade smooth, and Control 2 for an extra bit of subdivision, and we'll call this the octahedral atom. Then we'll Shift-D, duplicate that. I'll scale this one up just a little bit, and we'll call this the cubic atom. Perfect. Now I can go ahead and come back to the particle systems, so I'll grab the first one, and I'm actually going to label these as well, octahedral particles. We have 36 of them. Let's come to the render. We'll grab an object, and of course the object that we're going to use is our octahedral atom. They're not in the right place yet because we need to come to the field weights, or rather the vertex groups, and under density, we'll choose our octahedral one. You can see everything's perfectly in place now. That looks great. Now we're going to grab a second particle system by just creating a new one. We'll call this cubic particles. And a similar idea here. So I'm going to tab into edit mode, make sure that I select only the cubic points. There they are, 27 in total. So this time around, 27. Once again, we do want hair because we don't want these to fly off into space. We're going to use vertices again. Same thing with the modifier stack. Once again, using an object, and this time we're going to instance our cubic point. Once again, using the appropriate vertex group. And if we tab out, we can see everything is now in place. So we'll very, very quickly set up materials, and then we can actually get into the fun part of how all this animates. And I will add timestamps. I probably should have said that at the beginning of the video, but this is a bit of more of a live recreation. So let's start by coming into cycles so we can get nice shading. So what we're looking at here, pretty good. So I'm going to grab this, and basically to get the effect that I had in the video, you just choose any color you want. Bring the transmission up and use a moderate to high roughness. So 0.65 is what I had for all of them. Then I'm going to grab the atoms, and these I made black in the original, black and very shiny by just bringing the roughness down to about 0.25. That's a pretty nice effect there. I'm also going to shrink this just because I want them to be a little bit smaller. That's good. And then I'm also going to add a material here, and because I've gone with an orange here, I'll go with more of a blue there. And we'll also make these very shiny. Now, this is normally where you start fussing around, and it takes a while to settle on colors that you're happy with, but we're going to go through the gist of the effect. This is all pretty much fine, so I'm going to grab this. I'll shrink it down a little bit. Actually, I won't do that because what I want is for this to stay in place. So the real trick to getting this soft body collision thing to work right away is recognizing that the collision is only going to happen to this octahedra. So if I put the floor as my collision object, it's actually going to allow these spheres at the bottom to pass through it. So I'll show you what I mean by that by hitting Shift-A. We're going to add in a plane. I'll scale that up, and I'll call this the collision plane. We're also going to shift back to solid view just so that this isn't overly taxing. Very simply, all I want to do is grab my collision plane, come to the physics, and simply click collision. I'm not going to change any of these settings. I don't recall having to do so in the original. You may have to from time to time. This is not a comprehensive tutorial for soft body physics. Then I'm going to bring my perovskite up, and I'm going to click soft body here. First thing I need to do is uncheck this goal, and then if I simply go ahead and press play, we'll see what we're dealing with. So that came down, it squished, and everything fell apart. That is what's going to happen if you don't tweak some of the settings. So first, let's go ahead, and you'll remember in both the particle systems, we decided that we would enable the modifier stack. What that's going to allow us to do is move the soft body to the top, and now when we press play, everything should follow, and it does perfectly. That squishing is still occurring, but we're going to fix that very quickly. So go ahead, come to the physics properties, and under soft body, there's a few things we need to change. The first is I'm going to bring this bending value from 0 to 0.5. That should stop it from falling in on itself. Let's go ahead, give it a check. Perfect. You can see everything is now falling in on itself, and this is the original animation that I showed you with the actual atoms in place. It's going to keep bouncing because I'm not going to stop it. Now, one of the things that you'll notice, of course, is that it's bouncing outside the bounds, and if I don't want that to happen, very easy fix. All I have to do is enable this box for self-collision, and now everything will stay contained. Go ahead. And very nice. That's a very clean bounce. It looks good. From here, pretty much all you have to do is just add in some measure of changing forces or adjusting the pull-push values. So I'm going to start by changing both of these to about 0.2. We'll see what that does. It should make everything squishier, if that makes sense. You can see much squishier. If I bring these values up higher to about 0.9, in fact, I think it only goes from 0 to 1, it'll make it a little bit more taut. So things won't contract or deform as much. They'll just sort of bounce up and down as a uniform object. And really where you set these is kind of up to you, depending on the look that you're going for and kind of how fun you want it to be. Now, if I go ahead to field weights, I can change things such as the gravity. So a higher gravity, obviously it falls faster, it'll deform more. A lower gravity, and it will fall very slowly. So keep in mind your timeline and how long you need to take to render each frame if this is something that you want to do. So usually I try and stick with a gravity of at least 1 and only adjust if I need to. The other thing that you can do is by hitting Shift A, you can come down to, where are we here? Force fields. And then there's all kinds of options. Usually I would just go with force, wind, or maybe vortex. And then you can control how much each perovskite is affected by any one of these toggles. So because I've set up everything that I want right now, if I wanted a second perovskite, I would just have to duplicate it out. And then I could change things by bringing it up. I could double tap R and rotate it in a different direction. And now if I wanted to, we'll move that over a little bit. If I hit play, you'll see they're both going to fall. And this one will fall, and then it will sort of rotate and deform. If I wanted to, I could also then add forces that would only impact this one. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll add in a simple wind force. I'll bring it to the side and rotate it 90 degrees, so it should push the lattice this way. I'm also going to bring this forward a little bit just so that it's not in the way. So there we go. Let's reset that. And I want to make sure that this one is actually not impacted by the wind. So if I go ahead and press play right now, you can see they're both moving with the wind. What I'd like is for this one to fall straight down. So to do that, I'm simply going to bring the wind down to 0. Reset. And now you can see this one is being impacted by the wind, but that one's not. I can also change the gravity here and make it higher, let's say 2. And then this one will fall faster, but it will also be pushed away. Then it'll bounce very nicely. And of course, if I wanted to, I could do other things as well, such as scale it down. And similarly, I could change some of the actual physics, so I could make it a squishier lattice by bringing this pull and push value down. So let's see what we have. There we go. Let's actually bring the gravity up higher, maybe a 4, so it descends quite nicely, and then squish. And because the gravity is too high, it's actually being pulled into the floor, so you'd have to sort of take that into account. A lot of this is going to be playing with these things as you sort of set it up in a way that you want. And that was what I did with the other scene. Also, at the same time, if I really wanted to, I could make individual atoms, change the particle system. I could change this specific perovskite and make it a different color. So we can make this one green. And then you can see this is the basics of our scene all set up, ready to go. So simply hitting play here, and that comes down. And then this is going to bounce over. So my computer can't quite keep up in cycles with this. But if we do it in Eevee, it should be pretty quick. There we go. So very pleasant, very bouncy, just moving along, and toggle everything kind of as you like. Now, the one thing that I want to note, and I did kind of indicate as much before, I'm going to hide this for now, is when we look at this perovskite in this plane, if this was what we were trying to render with as our ground view, you can see these spheres are actually cutting into that plane. So this is how I would actually set up a proper ground. I'm simply going to add in a plane. I'll bring that down to about here. Excuse me. And then I'm going to scale that up, so quite a good bit. And this is actually going to be our scene ground. The collision plane, I'm going to make it so that it is not visible in the render, by simply unchecking this camera. And then I can also hide it in the viewport. Now what that has effectively done, if I grab my camera to view, and then set it up like this, is I've now created a simple background where it's going to look as though this is resting on the surface. So if we come to a render view, it looks like it's resting nicely on the surface. All the shadows are there. We'll make the light a little bit bigger just so that the shadows are softer. And this will bounce very cleanly in a frame. So we go ahead, we press play, it comes down, it bounces. In the original, I went to great pains to make sure it did not bounce out of frame once it bounced in, but you can dial that in by adjusting the camera and all sorts of things. And I think that's essentially it. So all we would do really from here is just bring this back portion up, bevel this out, making sure to apply the scale first, bevel that out to get a nice smooth backdrop. And this would be the gist of it. So we could have our nice bouncy perovskite or rhenium tetroxide or trioxide, whatever the structure was. And that comes nicely in a frame. And that's a very simple way to set up a scene like this if that's something you're interested in. So just to wrap up then, this is a quick, simple, and kind of fun effect. If you make something like this using this walkthrough or just on your own, I'd love to see it. Feel free to tag me at CGFigures on Twitter or Instagram. And with that, thanks for coming out. As always, if you enjoyed this, consider subscribing, sharing with your friends and colleagues, and until next time, you have yourselves a great old day.